It's important to look back at historical sports happenings and compare them to what has happened since. With the advancement of technology, sport-specific specialization, and the advancement of the sports themselves, the greatest performances in the history of sport only become greater as time goes by and those records continue to stand. For baseball in particular, the oldest professional sport in America, these moments mean even more. This is what you don't know about baseball's greatest playoff performances.
Welcome to What You Don't Know About Sports, where we delve into the forgotten stories, teams, and athletes of sports history and question widely held takes on today's sports. I'm Blake, and this is Matt.
Howdy.
And today we want to tell you about some of the most pronounced playoff performances. I actually had to look up a synonym that started with P for like best or greatest, and pronounced was the word again. Pronounced performances in MLB playoff history. Matt, in your opinion, this is going to be difficult, but who is the greatest postseason player of all time and why?
I think that for me, I think that it's going to be a homer answer here, but I know that because the late 90s, early 2000s Yankees played so many games in the postseason because they got good at the same time that the divisional series first became a thing. So they got an extra round to play in each postseason. Some of those players from those teams ended up with near regular season totals in the postseason. And so I think they're prime candidates. Any of the core group would be. But I think for just the sheer importance of the time this person played, high leverage situations would be the term now. I think I'm going to go Mariano Rivera, even though he lost a World Series once. I think I would go with him because outside of 96, he's the man at the end of the game that you need to get 3 outs, and by and large, he got them. So I think I would go with Mo for that.
That's a good one. If I were to be asked, and I know you didn't, but I'm going to tell you anyway. If I were to be asked, especially after researching this episode, Rivera's up there. Like, he still owns the record for career ERA in the postseason. He has a .7 postseason career ERA, which is obnoxious for someone who's not a Yankees fan. But if you were to ask me, my answer would probably be Derek Jeter, who was obviously on the same teams. But Jeter, as much as Rivera owns career postseason pitching records, Jeter holds career postseason batting records. And when I say batting records, I mean he is number one, Jeter is, in games played, at-bats, plate appearances, runs scored, hits, total bases, doubles, strikeouts, and singles in postseason history. That is, again, I'll use the word obnoxious because I'm not a Yankees fan, but either of these players could have that argument as best postseason performers of all time in baseball history.
Yeah, easily. And Jeter gets some of those Cy Young, Brett Favre type things where it's good and bad, right? He's got the most strikeouts, which is fun, but also, he's got the most plate appearances, so it's okay. It's really okay. But
we will survive. Yes.
So what we're going to do today is tell you about a couple of performances that were kind of extraordinary in a single postseason. And baseball is weird because some of these are multiple series, but some of them, the postseason was just the World Series. but they all happened in just a single postseason. And I've got the first one, and it's the most recent one on the list, having happened in 2014. But I think it's still pretty spectacular. In 2014, the San Francisco Giants, going into June 8th, had a 10-game lead in the National League West, but struggled from June to the end of the season, to the point where they lost 6 games in a row, not once, but twice in both June and July, where they just go a week, can't win a game. They ended May at 37-20, but for the rest of the season, 51-54. So a grand total of 88 wins, which is in the range for earning a wild card spot, but only 51 wins once the calendar got to June. That's tough to me, number one, that you could be that bad and still make the playoffs. I don't know if I can't think of another.
That is incredible.
They did earn the second wild card spot by a pretty decent margin. They didn't have to be concerned a whole lot, but still, it's not looking up going into the postseason. One of the bright spots on the team is Madison Bumgarder. Shout out North Carolina native.
North Carolina.
He did go 18-10 that year with a 2.98 ERA, a whip of just 1.09, so slightly more than a base runner per inning. 4th in wins, 7th in whip for the National League that year. So he was on it, even when the rest of his teammates may not have been for the full season. In the playoffs, though, he's going to turn it on with the rest of his teammates. So they go to the wild card game against the Pirates. He's going to throw a 4-hit complete game shutout with 10 Ks in an 8-0 win versus the Pirates. He doesn't go perfect in the postseason. I wish it was that awesome that he would go just whatever an O, but he did lose his NLDS start to the Nationals. Not a terrible game. It's not like he got hit around or anything, but lost the decision and didn't pitch again. Only one start in the NLDS. In the NLCS, though, he is the man. In game 1, 7 innings, 7 Ks, and gave up only 1 run in that 7th inning before he was pulled out of the game. And in game 6, which was the decisive game in the series, he went 8 innings, scattered 5 hits and 3 runs over the game, and kept it close so that the Giants could pull out a win in the bottom of the 9th. He is the National League Championship Series MVP that year. Now, it's really, to me, in the World Series, this is a playoff performances thing, but it's the World Series where he really cements his legacy as a workhorse, partially because he grew up in North Carolina and works on a farm, and he's country strong.
North Carolina.
But so far, he's thrown on regular rest. So 4 days off between each start would have been normal in 2014. He does that in game 1. He again scatters 3 hits over 7 innings to get an 8-1 win. No need for him to pitch any further. They had the game pretty well in hand by that point. Comes back in game 5, again on regular rest. The series tied at 2. So game 1, if you follow sports, it doesn't matter if it's baseball, if it's basketball, if it's hockey. The odd number games are important, particularly 1, 5, and 7. So he pitched game 1, got a win. Game 5, the series is tied at 2. So it's a pivotal game. He goes the distance in game 5, and it is his second complete game shutout of the postseason, giving up only 4 hits over the course of the game to put the Giants up 3-2. They lose to the Royals in game 6, and so it's time for game 7. Bumgarder doesn't start the game. He's on 2 days rest. Tim Hudson is the starter. If you're a Braves fan from that or early 2000s, you may know Tim Hudson. He pitched for them, pitched for the A's. He actually started the game. Bumgarder's on 2 days rest at this point. They had an off day before game 6, and he had day off in game 6. They go through the first 4 innings with Tim Hudson and Jeremy Affeldt, but then Bumgarder comes in on 2 days rest to finish out the game. He comes in the 5th inning. He pitches 5 innings. He gives up 2 hits and no runs to clinch the game or clinch the series for the Giants. He is the World Series MVP. His final World Series line is 3 appearances, 2 games started. He gave up 9 hits and 1 walk, so 10 base runners in 21 innings, and a grand total of a single run. His ERA in the World Series that year was .43. He had a whip of .476, less than half a base runner per inning. The next closest, so he pitched 21 innings for the whole series. This is a 7-game series now. The guy that was the next closest was Giordano Ventura for the Royals. He pitched 12 innings. James Shields for the Royals pitched 9 innings. Bumgarner's out there with 21. His full postseason total, 7 games. 6 games started. He went 28 hits, 6 walks, 52.2 innings, 6 earned runs. So an ERA of 1.03, a whip of .651. Technically, depending on how the starter or how the scorer wanted to score it, he could have been in line for a win in that Game 7, which would have put him in a different historical category that we'll get to later. But in general, one of the best World Series performances, but also one of the best playoff performances ever. Nearly unhittable for the entire month of October.
Watching this game, you see him come in for the Giants in the middle of Game 7 in the World Series. You see him come in, and you're like, man, you throw an inning or two and like bridge the gap, as they say, to get them to a closer, right? He pitched 1. Great job, Madison. You did your job. He comes out in the second inning. Okay, he's got a little bit more left on no rest. Comes back out for it just kept happening, and I was like, is he going to pitch the whole game? Like, he's going to be on the mound when the game ends. Like, this is going to be nuts. Sure enough, he pitched the last over half of the game. He is responsible for winning that. He had a great season, but he definitely put the team on his back for that one. All right, my turn. I chose everybody. Okay, everybody knows who the Murderer's Row is. Do you really know what happened in 1928? So the Yankees finished the regular season in 1928 with the pennant. Duh. They held off the Athletics. They win the pennant by 2.5 games, but it came at a cost. Yankees pitcher Herb Pinnock, who went 17-6 that season, had arm soreness coming into this postseason round. And in case you weren't aware, in 1928, there was one American League team and one National League team. They met in the World Series for a 7-game series. There was no divisional round, wild card, any of that. It was just 2 teams made it to the playoffs, played one 7-game series to decide the champion.
The way it should be.
Probably, because it takes way too long. Anyway. Earl Combs didn't play the field during this series due to a broken finger. Babe Ruth came into the World Series with a bad ankle and could barely run. If he ever really could run, if we're being honest. But anyway, Tony Lazzeri for the Yankees had an arm injury, and so a lot of people thought that the Yankees had no chance based on all of these players who were injured coming into the series, and the Cardinals were hot. They came into the playoffs on a roll, and guess what? It didn't matter. The Yankees won the first 3 games, 4-1, 9-3, and 7-3, mostly on the backs of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, because we'll get to their stat lines in a minute, but they were all-time great, as we know, but in this series in particular, absolutely ridiculous. After Game 3, though, St. Louis Cardinals manager Bill McKechnie still had hope. He said, quote, "If they can win 3 games, so can we. Nothing is impossible, and this thing isn't over until the 4th game is won." Well, guess what, Bill? You're about to lose Game 4. That's a sad story for him. St. Louis would lead in Game 4, though. In the top of the 7th inning, 2-1. Ruth comes to the plate. Cardinals pitcher Will Schertle had Ruth 0 balls, 2 strikes in the top of the 7th inning. Ruth turns to say something to the Cardinals catcher behind him, at which point Schertle quick pitched without a windup for what he thought would be a strike three. He was trying to catch Ruth not looking. Well, quick pitches were legal in the National League at the time. They were illegal in the American League and in the World Series, which is, don't get me started on the differences between AL and NL rules because it's obnoxious. But National League plate umpire behind the plate, Cy Furman, called a no pitch, and it apparently infuriated the Cardinals players, especially Will Schertle. And so, of course, Ruth still has a calm head. He's fine. He's not angry. He took 2 balls, counts 2-2, and then he home runs to tie the game. Gehrig would come up after him, hit a home run. They would go up 3-2 and never relinquish the lead. So the Cardinals kind of had a chance until this happened. But so, of course, the Yankees would go on and sweep the St. Louis Cardinals 4-0. Here's where it gets really cool. Ruth and Gehrig hit a combined 16 for 27 over 4 games. Together, they averaged a .593 batting average. They had 7 home runs combined and 13 RBIs combined. Ruth, on his own, would hit a .625, which is still the 4th best in postseason single postseason history. Gehrig would hit Garrett would hit slightly worse with a .545 batting average, but he had 9 RBIs by himself, which is as many as the St. Louis Cardinals had together for all 4 games. Gehrig and Ruth are still first and second all-time in OPS for a single postseason. Gehrig had a 2.433 OPS, and Ruth had a 2.022. Again, still first and second all-time in a single postseason. The 1928 World Series was pretty iconic. It included 16 future Hall of Famers, both managers, and the umpire, Bill McGowan, who took part. And Ruth would homer 3 times in a single World Series game. That has only 4 players have ever done that. Ruth did it twice. Reggie Jackson in 1977, Albert Pujols in 2011, and the Kung Fu Panda Pablo Sandoval homered 3 times in a single World Series game in 2012. Are those numbers like they're not even conceivable in today's baseball?
They are Ruthian in their stature. That's okay. So for anyone, the baseball fans out there know this, but OPS is one of the best stats to measure just general production at the plate because it takes into account how often you get on base, but also like how many bases you get when you get on base, right? Homers count more than triples, than doubles, than singles, than walks. If you're approaching 1, you're an all-star. If you're above 1 to 1.2, you are an all-time legend. You're talking about MVP, Hall of Fame level stuff. To be, and I know it was just 1 season or 1 postseason, 1 series, 4 games, but still 2.433 is double what you would expect one of the best players in baseball to do. And they both went over to they got hits, not just on base, but hits 54 and 62% of the time, 545, 625. Together, those RBIs are over half the Yankees' run production in the whole series. And Gehrig's counts for almost a quarter by himself. That's impressive. All the way through. The rest of the Yankees hit 196 in that World Series.
Real bad.
So these Ruth and Gehrig just did not care there and won the whole deal for the Yankees themselves. I love it.
This is a different era, of course, but there's a reason these records are still standing. There's a reason that Gehrig and Ruth are still first and second all time in a single postseason for OPS. They were not only a great of their time, but like the definition of an all-time great. These numbers, I can't imagine I can't imagine a scenario where someone ends a single postseason with an OPS of over 2. I think I don't remember who's third, but it's actually not that close. So absolutely. I mean, you know who Murderers Row was, but wow. Before you go, you can't go yet. we have a trivia. I don't know what we're going to call this segment because Stump the Mat just sounds funny. But so you're going to get 10 questions. I've got a trivia question for you.
You killed me last time.
That was a crazy question, wasn't it?
The last time it was my turn, I had no chance. All right. I'm ready.
You'll know. You'll do better this time. This trivia question is as follows: the record for the most wins in a single postseason by a pitcher is 5. Only 3 players all time have achieved this feat, registering 5 wins in a single postseason. 3 different pitchers. Can you name them?
Yes. No, I could name one.
Yes, no, maybe so.
I could name one. Kurt Schilling won 5 in 2001. Kurt Schilling's
not
one of them?
on the list.
Maybe he didn't win 5 in 2001. Oh no! All right. We're gonna forget
Kurt Schilling.
No, he's not. No, not him. He won 4. Randy Johnson won 5 games in 2001.
That's correct for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Randy Johnson, 2001.
Okay.
He is one of the 3. Do you know the other 2?
All right. What 2 years?
Okay. The other 2 years that this took place was 2002 and 2019.
2002, 2019. 2002, 2019. Okay, for who did the 2002 man pitch?
He pitched for the Anaheim Angels, who would go on to win the World Series. All 3 of here's a free nugget. All 3 of these teams won the World Series. If that helps. 2001, 2002, 2019.
An Angels pitcher won 5 games in 2002.
Yep.
Who was on that roster? Okay, so Troy Percival was the closer. I know that. Oh, man. All right, so 2019 is a World Series winner, too. That would have been... What year is it now? 2021?
I think so. I'm actually not sure sometimes.
Last time we checked, is 2019... I won't ask. I'll just ask a question. Is 2019 the Astros? No.
The Astros were defeated in 2019 in the World Series by this team.
I feel like an idiot right now.
You want me to give you? I can give you. Just say, do you want to know who that team is?
Yeah. Why can't I remember who won the World Series 2 years ago? Because it was 6 years all in one.
COVID. In 2019,
the Astros lost to the Dodgers.
In 2019,
to the Cardinals.
The Houston Astros lost the World Series to the Washington Nationals.
Oh, yeah, they did. That was a big deal. What am I thinking about? Oh, my gosh. What an idiot I am. Good thing that wasn't the question. Bombed it. So the Nationals would have been Max Scherzer. Would have won 5 games that year. Steven Strasburg would have won 5 games that year. Steven Strasburg
won 5 games in the 2019 postseason. So that's 2.
All right. So now that everybody's done and yelling at me for not remembering either of those 2 things.
The middle one is
well justified.
The middle one is way more difficult. This player is lesser known in my mind anyway than Randy Johnson and Steven Strasburg. But this is not one I would have. This is not one I would have gotten either. He made his major league debut in September of 2002 and then went on to pitch for the Anaheim Angels that postseason and win 5 games. So he made his major league debut like a month before the postseason started.
Who else? That's so Tampa Bay Rays though. Now they just like randomly they're for anybody listening watching the playoffs. The Rays starting rotation for the playoffs includes like 2 rookies. One guy's made 3 or 4 starts. One not much more than that. All right. Did he pitch for anyone else in his career?
Yes. This player in his career pitched for. Well, You count Anaheim and the Los Angeles Angels as the same team. He played for the Mets, Toronto, the Mets again, the Brewers,
Oh gosh.
Toronto, the Brewers, the Orioles, the Brewers, and the Tigers.
Man.
He ended his career with the Detroit Tigers 2017.
When did he play for the Mets? What seasons? How many questions have I asked? I don't know.
I don't remember either. 2009, 2010, and 2011 is when he played in New York.
Oh my gosh. Has this man ever been an all-star?
6-time All-Star.
Jesus. Okay, so I have to know him.
You'll recognize.
Yeah,
you'll probably. I'm sure you'll recognize his name, but like pulling it out of your head is not as easy.
What is his? What, this is gonna be like a spelling bee question. What is his country of origin? Like, where is he from?
Venezuela.
All right, I've got a name.
Okay.
It's gonna be wrong.
Okay.
But we're gonna go for it. The only person I can think of that would have played for this many teams, but would have been able to be like just lightning, is maybe Octavio Dotel.
That is a ridiculous guess, but that is not the correct answer.
Dang it! Who is it?
Francisco Rodriguez.
No one. Okay, K-Rod. Yep, 100%. K-Rod. I remember him. Lightning in a bottle. No, that makes sense because he came up in 2002 in September. Lights out. Was a phenom. And like many phenoms, ended up not being so phenomenal after a while.
He held on for a while. He bounced around after he left the Angels, Mets, Brewers, Orioles, and Tigers. But yeah, he came on, made an impact, carried the Angels to a World Series title, and then he only pitched in the postseason a few more times after that. So
yeah, but had a cool name, K-Rod. I love it.
Yep.
Man.
See, was that better? You knew. It's like you knew, you just couldn't retrieve it.
Yeah, I enjoyed failing on all three of those, by the way.
You just
went Schilling instead of Johnson. Couldn't remember who won the 19 World Series because it was a fever dream. And nothing on K-Rod. That's what I don't know about sports. Should be the new name of the...
What, Matt? I'm writing that down, right? What, Matt? Okay. All right, your turn. You can talk now. I'm done.
All right. I'm going to redeem myself then. So, the actually one of the origins of this episode, where we got the idea from, is looking at our next little short story here. So, in 1968, we've got Mickey Lolich, who is an unlikely hero for the World Series. Again, 1968 was before the American and National League split into divisions. So it was still just the pennant winners in the World Series. So we got one round. Lolich is an unlikely hero, though, there. He was born right-handed, but as a child suffered a freak accident that broke his right arm and taught him how to be left-handed. So he is one of these people who is ambidextrous, but not completely. Like he's not like my man, I can't remember his name, that can pitch both right-handed and left-handed. Like he's not like this. But he does things right-handed, but he throws the ball left-handed, just as a result of this. He's also one of the most eccentric, whatever that word is, eccentric players. One of the most eccentric players of all time. He pitched for the Tigers on and off. This was in the late 60s. We still got a situation where sometimes players move up through the minor leagues without actually being signed to a major league team. So the Tigers had this deal where they brought him up for camp one time, sent him to Portland, brought him up again. And when they brought him up the second time, he left. He stayed in Portland a couple of days longer than he was supposed to, because he was there taking the postman's exam, trying to become a postman instead of going to pitch for the Major League Club. He was also known to do things that everybody loves, like talk to the ball and like draw on the mound, sit on the ground sometimes, just do weird things. But he's also a heck of a pitcher. He was the career leader in strikeouts by a left-handed pitcher all the way till 2017. CC Sabathia finally passed him in 17. So that's toward the end of Sabathia's career. He remained the career leader in strikeouts by a lefty. Randy Johnson was a left-handed pitcher that struck out a lot of people. Never got to where Mickey Lolich was. He won. Well, let's go ahead and tell you about the World Series. So in 1968, it was the year of the pitcher, famously known as that. This would have been the year after which they lowered the mound to try and put batters into better positions. And in that whole season, none were better than Bob Gibson and Mickey Lolich's teammate, Denny McLain, both of whom won 30 games, both of whom had ERAs in the ones. Gibson, of course, would have one of the lowest ERAs in the history of the sport that year. And they're going to meet in the World Series. Toward the end of that season, Lolich had actually been dropped from the rotation. He had a couple of struggles, was in a little bit of a slump. The manager pulled him from a few starts, and he allegedly told the manager, "You're going to need me one day," which turned out to be true in the World Series. Lolich is going to pitch in Game 2. In Game 1, it was Gibson versus McLean, the two stars. Gibson won that outing in Game 1. So in Game 2, Lolich, pitching not against Gibson, goes the full 9 innings. He gives up 1 run on 6 hits to even the series at 1. The Tigers would lose the next 2 games, with Game 4 being another matchup between Gibson and McLean, with Gibson out-dueling McLean again. And just in case we're thinking that these were some kind of pitching duels, they were not. In the first game, the Cardinals won 4-0. In the second game, it's 10-1. So Gibson's holding up his end of the bargain. He's given up 1 earned run in his first 2 starts. McLean is nowhere to be found. And if you're paying attention to the earlier episodes, or not earlier episodes, you're paying attention to the earlier stories, we talked about Gibson throwing in 1, 5, and 7. So in 68, they were using mostly 4-man rotations. So Game 1, McLean coming back in Game 4, that would have been normal rest for them. So next up is Mickey Lolich in Game 4. He goes 9 innings again. He does give up 3 runs this time on 9 hits. So he kind of scattered some hits. Most of the damage was done in the first inning. All 3 runs came in the first inning. But after that, he settled down. The remainder of the game, he didn't give up very many hits. No more runs. Keeps the Tigers in the series. Without this win, they're going to be looking at elimination in Game 5. In Game 6, the Tigers are going to change things up. So clearly McLean is not winning against Bob Gibson. So they do a thing that is one of the cool things about baseball is who pitches what day and when we're going to see those matchups. So they pitch McLean on short rest to get him in Game 6, not against Gibson. He finally upholds his end of the bargain, gets a win in the World Series, and it pushes things to Game 7. And we get the pitching matchup that nobody knew they needed, but they really needed. Gibson's coming in 2-0, 18 innings pitched, 10 hits in the entire series, and only 1 earned run. Both pitchers in Game 7 go all 9 innings. The first run would not be scored until the 7th, with Detroit taking a 3-0 lead, and Lolich held on the rest of the way. The final lines, Gibson got the loss, but it was 9 innings pitched, 4 runs on 8 hits and a walk. Lolich, 9 innings pitched. He gave up just 1 run on 5 hits and 3 walks to win the World Series. Obviously, he is the 1968 World Series MVP. He would become the last man to win 3 games in the World Series until 2001. He is the last man to win 3 complete games in the World Series. And in the entire history of baseball, he is the only left-handed pitcher to win 3 complete games in the World Series. Truly one of the all-time greats and one of the all-time performances. And he gets forgotten about because he wasn't the big star of the season. He was eccentric, but he was great.
Yeah, he kind of hid behind McLean coming into the postseason. But then when McLean didn't perform, they needed somebody, and Lolich showed up, and he isn't talked about enough. For I don't know if it's left-handed discrimination. I don't know what that would be called. If we just don't like talking about left-handed players unless you're 6'9" with a mullet, you know. I don't know if I don't know if that's a real thing or not, but maybe it is. And so, Mickey Lolich, all-time great, still holds records like we've been talking about for all of our stories, and that's we have to bring them back to your attention because sometimes we forget about them too. But that's why we're here, folks. I've got a quick story for you. This one won't take very long because this gentleman's postseason didn't last very long for the time for the time that he played in the postseason for the year. This was 1992 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Could you guess who it was if you didn't already know? His name is Lloyd Mclendon. You may be asking, who is Lloyd Mclendon? Well, he played for 8 seasons, played for 3 teams, took a break, managed somebody, took another break. He managed 3 teams total after he retired. Most recently as an interim manager of the Tigers, just within the last couple of years, actually. For perspective, McLendon is a lifetime .244 batting average with 35 home runs in his career and 154 RBIs in his career. So you may be wondering what put him on this list. I'll tell you in a minute. If you know him, though, you know him best for his performance in the 1992 National League Championship Series. And you probably live in Pittsburgh, and you're probably a Pirates fan, but that's beside the point. Moving on, McLendon and the Pirates would face the Braves in a 7-game series in the 1992 NLCS. Pittsburgh would go down 2-0. They would split the next 2. They'd be down 3-1. Pittsburgh would rally to win 2 more straight games, forcing a Game 7 in Atlanta. This might be important that Game 7 happened in Atlanta. The Pirates would be leading into the bottom of the 9th, 2-0. Pirates are headed to the next round. Braves are going home until this happens. The Braves end up getting the bases loaded with no outs in the bottom of the 9th. Ron Gant hits a sacrifice fly, and they score 1 run. So if you're tallying at home on your whiteboards, because I know you're really paying attention to us, it's 2-1, bottom of the 9th. Next batter gets walked. The bases are loaded again. Brian Hunter comes up to bat for Atlanta, hits a pop fly to second base. 2 outs, no runs are scored. Francisco Cabrera comes on to pinch hit for the Braves. He singles to left field and scores 2 to end the game.
Sid Bream scored.
Heartbreaking loss when you consider that. They're up 2-0 in the bottom of the 9th. I wish I knew who the pitcher was. If anyone knows, without me having to look it up live on air, who the pitcher was for the Pirates who gave all of this up in the bottom of the 9th. There's probably more than one pitcher, actually. But heartbreaking loss when you consider how well McLendon played. I know I didn't mention him in that bottom of the 9th sequence, but this is what happened. Lloyd Mclendon, to this day, still holds records for a single postseason batting average for .727. He hit .727 over that 7-game series against the Braves. He is still first all-time in single postseason on-base percentage with .750. All-time postseason, he is still 5th in slugging for a single postseason for a 1.182, and he is 4th all-time for single postseason in OPS. We talked about who the first and second were a long time ago. 4th all-time in OPS for a single postseason is Lloyd Mclendon with a 1.932 OPS. The only caveat is because even though this went 7 games, he only had 11 at-bats. Ruth and Gehrig had more at-bats in a 4-game World Series 100 years ago than he And you would think if he was batting this well, he would have batted more, right? I don't understand it.
Yeah, he just so Doug Drabeck was the starting pitcher that loaded the bases and gave up the sacrifice fly. And then the actual blown save, so he got the loss. The blown save goes to Stan Belinda, who got the, or actually, no, Drabeck loaded the bases. Belinda came in and gave up the sacrifice fly and the single. So Drabeck gets the loss because it was his runners, but Belinda blew the save because he couldn't take care of the game. So those were your two. Your two pitchers. I want to tell you one more real quick. Not going to get all the way into it. Just know that in my last story, I said that Mickey Lolich was the last guy until 2001 to win 3 World Series games. And one of our trivia questions was Randy Johnson won 5 games in a postseason. That happened in 2001. And it was actually Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling together as a 2-man wrecking crew through that postseason. You may remember that 2001 postseason, obviously, is the first one after 9/11. Very emotional in New York. The 3 games that were there, the Yankees win all 3 of those.
Had to throw that in there.
Dramatic fashion, including destroying the confidence of previously unhittable Byung-Hyun Kim, their closer. But it is Schilling and Johnson who are the stories here. By the time the series gets to Game 7, Schilling is the Game 7 starter, and then Johnson comes in for the final 1 1/3. And it's only the final 1 1/3 because, unfortunately, we mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, Mariano Rivera not perfect in the postseason. He blew the save in Game 7. Johnson, though, the Diamondbacks were pretty well positioned there. Johnson had pitched 2 games already, had actually pitched Game 6, 105 pitches just the night before. But he was there to go as long as they needed that night, with the game tied going into the 9th inning. Schilling had actually given up a go-ahead run. The D-backs were hoping to tie it. Johnson was going to stick around. Johnson became the first man since Mickey Lolich because he was the guy on the mound when the Diamondbacks took the lead. He got the win. So he became the first man since Lolich to win 3 games in a World Series. But just check out these stat lines for Schilling and Johnson real quick throughout the postseason. Schilling started 6 games, went 4-0, 48 innings pitched, 25 hits. I won't give you the hits and walks. So 4-0, 48 innings pitched, .623 whip for the postseason. 1.12 ERA for the postseason. Johnson played in 6 games, started 5 of them, went 5-1, 41 innings pitched, .802 whip, 1.53 ERA. They had to win 11 games. Schilling won 4 of them. Johnson won 5 of them, 9 together. Of the 11 wins came from Schilling and Johnson that year, which is pretty incredible. Also, Johnson and Schilling threw several, not just one complete game shutout apiece. They threw a couple throughout that postseason. So just incredible as well.
Had to throw that one in there. That one's also well worth it. And there are more postseason stories that we could bring up. We just wanted to give you a couple of our favorites. I had to throw in the Yankees one in there for my co-host here because
everybody loves the Yankees. Everybody loves the Yankees. Well, it's just everybody.
We both nominated Yankees for greatest all-time postseason performers, and I had to throw in a Yankee story, and we had to mention every time fun things happen with the Yankees, like how they didn't lose a game in New York in the 2001 postseason and all that fun stuff.
You got to talk about the past because the president is so great right now. You know, it's okay.
Just
we can admit it.
Well, but for real, the inspiration for this episode was one amazing postseason performance, and we started thinking about some other ones, and we started thinking of how important it was to look back at, like our intro said, how important it is to look back at historical sporting events, because you see when you're watching games all the time, they'll say first player since blank. Well, that means that record is now broken, right? Or they've already added another player to that previously incredible list or whatever. Some of these may live on forever. And those are the ones that TV doesn't always tell you about. So we wanted to try and find a few of those and share them with you. I certainly learned a lot. Matt learned who won the 2019 World Series.
Man.
And that's all that matters. Final words.
Oh, man. I am embarrassed over the trivia results. But yeah, no, I think, I mean, it's always interesting. It's part of the fun of this show is that we can go in and look at some things that happened in the past. I love it. Postseason performances are amazing. Every sports postseason has always got that extra bit of drama. It's why they do it. It's why they keep expanding them for better or worse. But yeah, I think if you can perform in that time, even Francisco Rodriguez, he's got that to hang his hat on. 5 wins in a postseason. So all these things are really, really great.
Maybe next year we'll do a worst postseason performances, and I'm going to nominate that one Braves wild card game with the infield fly rule that no one understands to this day. And I'm just going to find
the infield fly that went halfway to left field.
Yeah, I'm just going to find someone to blame for that because I'm so salty and whatever. But anyway,
250-foot infield fly.
He was in the grass.
What an idiot!
He caught the ball. I don't understand. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you have any great ideas, send them to us. We're always looking to learn more about sports because that is what you don't know about postseason performances. Until next time, see ya.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of What You Don't Know About Sports. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave us a review, 5 stars only, and hit that subscribe button wherever you listen. If you have a great sports story, we want to hear about it. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WYDKAS Podcast, and on our YouTube channel at What You Don't Know About Sports Podcast. All episodes are written, recorded, and edited by us. Stay tuned for the next episode.
What, Matt? I'm writing that down, right? What? Okay. All right, your turn. You can talk now. I'm done.